What words from Taehyung could make Jungkook break down in tears just minutes ago? And why are millions of armies around the world crying with him? Stay until the end, share your feelings in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if this moment touched your heart. What could possibly have been said in those quiet seconds that made Jungkook's eyes fill, his shoulders tremble, and his voice disappear into the fragile silence between him and Taehyung? What truth, what confession, what hidden ache surfaced so suddenly that even those watching from afar felt their own throats tighten? And why, only 10 minutes after the moment unfolded, did fans across continents begin sharing the same stunned reaction? Tears, disbelief, and a single lingering question. What really happened between them? The moment began without warning, almost deceptively ordinary, like countless other interactions that fans had witnessed over the years. There was no dramatic lighting, no scripted build-up, no visible tension beforehand. Just two people standing within arm's reach, familiar in posture and presence, carrying the shared history of years lived side by side under extraordinary circumstances. Cameras were present, but the atmosphere felt unguarded, unscripted, unarmored. And perhaps that was why what followed cut so deeply. Jungkook had been smiling moments earlier, the soft, easy smile that fans recognized as genuine, unforced. His eyes still held the faint brightness of laughter from something said off mic, and his posture leaned slightly toward Taehyung in the comfortable, instinctive way of someone accustomed to closeness. Taehyung too appeared calm, though there was an undercurrent in his expression that only became noticeable in retrospect. A gravity behind the eyes, a stillness in the jaw, as if something unspoken had been waiting for release. Then Taehyung spoke. No one outside that immediate space heard the exact words at first. The microphones did not capture them clearly, and the ambient noise blurred the sound into indistinct fragments. Yet the effect was instantaneous. Jungkook's smile froze as if caught mid-motion. His eyes widened, not in surprise alone but in recognition. The kind that arrives when someone names a truth you have carried quietly for too long. The air seemed to change temperature. Those nearby shifted subtly, sensing a transition they could not yet understand. Taehyung continued speaking, his voice low, steady, unhurried. There was no visible anger, no raised tone, no theatrical emphasis. But something in his gaze held unwavering focus. The way one looks when stepping across an emotional threshold from which there is no easy retreat. And Jungkook listened. At first, Jungkook's expression remained still, but the stillness was not emptiness, it was containment. His lips parted slightly as if to respond, then closed again. His breathing changed almost imperceptibly. The brightness in his eyes softened, then shimmered. Those watching in real time began to sense that something intimate, something profoundly personal, was unfolding in front of them. Not staged, not performative, but raw in a way rarely seen in public spaces. Then the tears came. They did not fall dramatically at once. They gathered first, a sheen at the rim of his lower eyelids, the delicate tremor of moisture held back by reflex. Jungkook blinked rapidly, attempting to steady himself, to regain composure in the way someone does when emotion arrives unexpectedly in a place where composure is expected. But Taehyung kept speaking, and with each quiet phrase the effort to hold back dissolved further. The first tear slipped free. It traced down Jungkook's cheek slowly, unhidden, unmistakable. His face tightened, not in embarrassment but in vulnerability, the kind that surfaces when someone touches a wound that has never fully healed. He lowered his gaze briefly, perhaps hoping the moment might pass unseen. But the cameras were there, and the world was already watching. Taehyung's expression changed then, too, not with regret, not with shock, but with something softer, something almost protective. He reached out, not abruptly but gently, his hand hovering for a fraction of a second before settling against Jungkook's shoulder. It was not a dramatic embrace, not a sweeping gesture. It was small, steady contact. Yet that touch seemed to break the final barrier. Jungkook exhaled, a breath that trembled audibly even through the surrounding noise. More tears followed, faster now, no longer restrained. His shoulders dipped as if the weight he had carried internally had suddenly become too heavy to bear upright. He did not hide his face completely, but he did not seek the cameras either. He remained where he was, eyes wet, mouth pressed thin, absorbing whatever Taehyung had entrusted to him in those words no one else fully heard. Within minutes, fragments of the moment began spreading. Clips surfaced, slowed, replayed, magnified. Fans leaned closer to screens, searching for lip movements, tonal clues, contextual hints. But what moved them most was not the mystery of the words themselves. It was the unmistakable reality of Jungkook's reaction. The authenticity of someone who had not prepared to be seen in that state and therefore could not disguise it. Why did he cry like that? What had Taehyung said that cut so deeply yet seemed to carry no hostility? Why did Taehyung look both solemn and tender at once? Questions multiplied, but beneath them lay something more primal: recognition. Viewers recognized the look of someone hearing a truth from someone who mattered profoundly. They recognized the way tears fall when love, fear, memory, and longing converge in a single moment. Some speculated that Taehyung had spoken about time. The years they had grown together, the changes they had endured, the distance and closeness that coexist in long relationships lived under pressure. Others believed he had referenced exhaustion, vulnerability, or the burden of expectations carried silently. Still others sensed something even more intimate. A confession of worry, of protectiveness, of feelings rarely voiced aloud. What intensified the emotional shock was Taehyung's own composure. He did not appear distressed by Jungkook's tears. He did not rush to retract or soften his words. Instead, he remained present, gaze steady, hand still resting where it had landed. It was the posture of someone who had chosen honesty despite knowing it might hurt, trusting that the truth itself was necessary. Jungkook eventually lifted his head again, eyes red but open. He looked directly at Taehyung, and for a brief second their eye contact held. No words were exchanged then. None were needed. The silence between them was dense with meaning, layered with shared years, private memories, unspoken understandings. Observers described that glance later as heavier than any spoken statement. Then, almost reflexively, Taehyung squeezed Jungkook's shoulder once, a small, reassuring pressure, and withdrew his hand. Jungkook inhaled, wiped quickly at his cheek, and attempted a faint smile that trembled at the edges. It did not erase the tears. It did not restore the earlier lightness. But it signaled something else. Acceptance, perhaps, or gratitude, or the fragile beginning of emotional recalibration after being moved so deeply. By the time 10 minutes had passed, the moment had already begun to echo outward. Fans shared screen captures of Jungkook's tearful face alongside messages of empathy and shock. Many wrote that they themselves had cried simply watching, even without knowing the words exchanged. Others spoke about the power of witnessing authenticity in people they admired, seeing that even those who seem strong and radiant can be undone by the tenderness of a single conversation. The absence of clear audio paradoxically amplified the impact. Without definitive words, viewers projected their own experiences into the space between Taehyung's lips and Jungkook's tears. They imagined confessions about hardship, reassurances about worth, apologies long overdue, fears finally voiced. Each possibility resonated because the emotional truth on Jungkook's face required no translation. Experts in performance and public life often note that genuine emotion rarely survives in highly controlled environments. Yet here, in a setting where composure is typically maintained, something unscripted had surfaced. It reminded audiences that relationships forged in extraordinary circumstances still rest on ordinary human foundations: care, worry, frustration, loyalty, love. And when those foundations are touched, the response can be as raw as anyone's. As more angles of the footage appeared, subtle details emerged. Taehyung's lips, when slowed, seemed to form syllables consistent with reassurance rather than reproach. Jungkook's initial reaction, shock followed by release, aligned more with being deeply moved than criticized. Observers began to lean toward an interpretation that Taehyung had expressed something heartfelt, perhaps overdue: acknowledgement of Jungkook's struggles, appreciation for his endurance, or an intimate reminder of their bond.